reporting there, and with all of the craziness going on in sports arenas across the nation, we have to ask what is going on and what can be done to stem this tide. So here to help us answer those questions is Elaine Swann. Elaine is an etiquette expert and author of Let Crazy Be Crazy. Elaine, thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, so Elaine, we're seeing garbage hurled at players. We're hearing verbal abuse, protesters just barging onto the court here. What's leading to this kind of behavior?
Well, you have to kind of think of this. You know how when you say when you raise kids, you shouldn't keep them in the house for too long, allow them to get out every so often so that when you do let them out, they don't go buck wild? Well, I think we're seeing some of the remnants of COVID. Folks have been sequestered. They've been at home. They've been quarantined. They're now at their first outing. And people are really beginning to misbehave. I think what we're seeing here is a lot of misbehavior that we see online. People are now taking this to real life, and they're acting out and being really rude and disrespectful in person, but not really recognizing how terribly impactful this can be to others who are just trying to enjoy the game.
Right, and just trying to do their jobs, because we're talking about the athletes here. But Elaine, that brings us to the next question. More athletes actually seem to be responding to the heckling, not just ignoring it. Now, that's something we didn't always see. Do you think that's just because, of course, we all have cell phones now, we're always, having the cell phones up recording, or is this like really a fundamental shift in just what we think we can say to each other?
Well, cell phones definitely are recording the actions a lot more than what we used to see when we only had those television cameras. But I also think what's happening is we're seeing athletes wanting to stick up for themselves and speak out for themselves in whatever way they can. I mean, like we saw Kyrie Irving, kind of slipping that, giving that finger gesture there. And I think we're starting to see these folks do this because, I don't know, maybe they're not necessarily getting the support that they need to prevent the fans from doing so, but there are some measures that can be put in place to help try to curb some of this misbehavior.
All right, so Elaine, obviously you are an etiquette expert, so we do want to defer to you on that. Tell us, what is the appropriate way to respond if you find yourself in the middle of a situation where a fan is heckling an athlete? Should you intervene, or should you just be quiet?
Yeah, so one of the things that I say in my book, Let Crazy Be Crazy, is to allow authority figures to do the work for you. We have folks who are in place very specifically to wrangle those folks up, to make sure that they comply or either put them out. So then this way we don't find our athletes being fined or forever being a social media meme by either, cursing someone out or giving the finger or whatever it is. So use authority figures and let them do the work. Now, one of the things that we know that we have is players do have the power to stop themselves in them tracks and say, hey, you know what? I'm not moving another foot until somebody does something about this person, most especially if they're being put in harm's way. So I think some of one of the things we see players can do is they can put forth an effort to allow those authority figures who are in place to get those unruly fans under control.
All right. So, Elaine, tell us, how do we spot the signs of an escalating situation versus maybe somebody just having a good time and just is a loudmouth?
There is a difference between having a lot of fun and maybe really getting to the point to where you have crossed that line. For those individuals who are spectators at events, just keep an eye on your surroundings. If you see someone who's able to really get rowdy but then settle down pretty quickly, then that's a sign that someone's just having a great time. But if you see that behavior starting to escalate and maybe now it's beginning to impact others around them, this is when you start to see that there might be a problem. And in my opinion, when you see an individual who is disregarding all of the rules and all of the regulations, my recommendation is to do not try to police crazy folk, because these are individuals who are just going to throw caution to the wind. They're not going to listen. And there's probably nothing that you're going to be able to say or do to stop this person. So instead, get someone else in between and get some folks who are in charge, who have the authority to boot them out to handle that situation.
You know what, Elaine, very important advice right there. Do not try to police crazy folks. I think that can be applied to so many facets of life. And again, we talked to you about whether or not we're seeing more athletes kind of responding to fans, but just overall, do you think that we just overall are seeing more of these incidents, or is it just because we have the cell phones, we're paying attention a little bit more?
I believe it's a combination of both things. We have the cell phone, so this information is being recorded. And secondly, we're paying attention a lot more because once one person does it, now we've got that eagle eye out and we're paying attention to see what's happening here and not only in the stands, but also on the court as well. So I believe it's a combination of both. And these athletes, they're tired of being picked on. You know, they're trying to do their job. This is literally their job. So imagine if someone came to your job and berated you and called you names and you know, really upset the flow of your work. And so these folks are saying, you know what, do something about this or I will, which is not always the best thing to do.
Exactly. And that's a good thing. You know, imagine if somebody came to your job and did that to you. Elaine, my big takeaway from this, you cannot police crazy. Elaine Swann, etiquette expert, thank you so much for that.